Hello students, once again we come to Eliot's tradition and individual talent. In this, with the help of this essay, we will see the manifesto of Eliot's critical creed. Eliot's essay "Tradition and Individual Talent" has been called a manifesto of Eliot's critical principles. A manifesto is a declaration of the principles, aims, and objectives of a person or a group of persons, say a political party. And we know this thing very well. In this essay, Eliot has discussed certain principles and theories which he developed further in his later essays. These theories form the basis of all the future criticism of Eliot, whether literary or social, whether on individual writers or on the nature and function of literature. This essay is the framework for the numerous critical essays which subsequently flowed from his pen. It is a seminal essay containing all his future theories in the germ. It is a declaration of his critical creed. Hence, we can very well call it his manifesto. And what are the points in the essay on the basis of which we can say that this essay is the manifesto of his critical creed? In the essay states his theory of tradition. So we see that Eliot faith in tradition and objective authority, and his theory of impersonality of poetry, and these two theories form the basis of his subsequent criticism. Two theories, one is theory of tradition and theory of impersonality of poetry, form the basis of his subsequent criticism. Eliot called himself a classicist in literature, and this essay contains a full exposition of his classicism. A classicist believes in some external, objective authority to which an artist must conform. Eliot too rejects the romantic cult of the inner voice and clearly states that the poet must conform to tradition. He should have to avoid his. He says that an author has to avoid his own personal own emotions and feelings in composing a poem. So the theory of inner voice is rejected completely here. He must have the historic sense. As Eliot believes in tradition, he believes in historic sense, means the sense of tradition. He must acquire this tradition with painstaking effort. It means one has to work hard for acquiring sense of tradition, means historic sense. He must be aware not only of the pastness of the past, but also of its presence. He says not only the best, but the most individual parts of his immortality most vigorously. Eliot rejects the romantic cult of individuality and stresses the classical principles of adherence to some outside authority. He takes the whole literature of Europe from Homer down to his own day to be a single literary tradition. So he considers whole literature, particularly of Europe, from ancient times through the modern times as a single literary tradition, and it is to this tradition that a new writer must conform. So one has to follow a tradition, and the tradition that is that has been followed in the literature since ages, one has to follow this tradition, one has to conform this tradition, and following this tradition shows the historic sense of author. So, and at the same time, he also says that the author, it does not mean that one author has to follow blindly this tradition. He must also has the sense of presence of pastness. So he should keep in mind pastness of the past and presence of the past, because present also in present we learn from history from past. So present can be reformed with the help of awareness of the past. So dynamic conception of tradition. Till now we have discussed that points that we find in his essays, on the basis of which we can say that the Eliot's essay traditional individual talent can be called a manifesto of Eliot's critical creed. So first point that we have discussed now is faith in tradition and objective authority, and second point is dynamic conception of tradition. So in earlier passage we have discussed that one should have faith in tradition. One must have faith in tradition. Now we will see that what is this concept of tradition. So what is the dynamic conception of tradition? However, his conception of tradition differs from that of the classics in one important respect. For the classics, the past was dead and unchanging. For Eliot, the past lives on in the present and influences and directs poets and writers in the present. So, past and present are the situations that are reciprocal to each other, and one is incomplete without the sense of another. Besides this, the past itself is changed and modified whenever a really new work of art is created. The existing monuments form an ideal order among themselves, which is modified the introduction of the new work of art among them. So, in this way, present alters the past and past alters the present. The past is altered by the present as much as present is directed by the past. So, past directs the present and present alters the past. This is the dynamic conception of tradition in the view of Eliot. Next, he says that personality of author should be extincted in the composition of poetry. He has to be objective in writing of a poem, and at the same time he also discusses that how the extinction of personality can be acquired in writing of a poem. So we will discuss here this point. Besides his emphasis on the poet's conformity to an objective authority, Eliot is also a classicist in his theory of the impersonality of poetry. So, in the sense of impersonality of poetry, we can define Eliot as a classicist in his theory. The Romantics believed that poetry is an expression of powerful passion, or it has its origin in emotions reflected in tranquility. This is the theory given by Wordsworth in his uh, in his theory on composition of poetry, into which he says that poetry is uh, poetry is emotions reflected in tranquility. But Eliot here rejects this idea, and romantics that laid stress on the personality of the poet was rejected by the theory of impersonality of Eliot, and he said that poetry is an expression of the As the Romantics says that poetry is an expression of the personal emotions and feelings of the poet. This theory was rejected by Eliot in his this present essay. In his view, the process of an artist's maturity is the process of the extinction of his personality. More an artist becomes mature, more will be the more he will be separated from the including his more will he be separated from his poetry personally. But the maturer he grows, the greater would be the depersonalization of his art. Says Eliot, the progress of an artist is a continual self sacrifice, a continual extinction of personality. This extinction of personality is to be achieved in two ways. First, he must acquire the sense of tradition and surrender himself completely to the influence of the writers of the past. Secondly, he must be lost completely in the work he has to do. The poetic process organization of disparate experiences. Now, according to Eliot, we will discuss poetic process. What is poetic process? According to Eliot, we will discuss here, and we can say that poetry, composing the poetry or poetic process, is an organization of disparate experiences. Eliot rejects romantic subjectivism and, in order to explain his theory of impersonality of poetry, compares the poet's mind first to a catalytic agent and then to a jar or receptacle, just as two gases combine to form a new compound in the presence of a catalytic agent. So, also the mind of a poet is a catalytic agent in the presence of which varied feelings and emotions fuse into new combinations. The mind of the poet may be compared to a jar or a receptacle to which are stored varied emotions and experiences which combine form new wholes at a particular moment when poetic creation begins. But Eliot does not explain what that particular moment is or what that element is which sets off the poetic process. This is a mystery, something mystical, incapable of precise, logical, verbal formulation. So, Eliot's theory of poetry has a touch of the romantic in it, despite all his classicism. The artistic emotion, its impersonality. Thus, in Eliot's view, poetry is not an expression of emotion but an organization of varied emotions into new wholes. And the emotions expressed in poetry need not be the personal emotions of the poet. The poet need never have suffered or experienced those emotions, he might have acquired them through his study. As a matter of fact, Eliot distinguishes between the man who experiences and suffers and the artist, the poet who creates. The artistic emotion, the significant emotion, is different from the personal emotion of the artist. The more perfect the artist, the more completely separate in him will be the man who suffers and the mind which creates. Now, intensity and concentration are included in his essay. Further, he tells us that the greatness of a work of art does not depend upon the greatness or the intensity of the emotions expressed therein. It is the intensity of the poetic process, the pressure under which creation takes place, which counts. The intensity of poetry is quite different from the intensity of the emotion expressed therein. Poetry is not recollection, it is concentration, a concentration of numerous and varied experiences, and this concentration takes place unconsciously. Eliot then hastens to point out that in the writing of poetry there is much that is conscious and deliberate, But a bad poet is conscious when he should be unconscious, and unconscious when he shall be conscious. Thus, poetry is not all spontaneous. There is conscious and deliberate effort in the making of a poem. But Eliot does not explain when an artist should be conscious and when he should be unconscious. Poetry, according to Eliot, an escape from personal emotions. Eliot does not deny personality and emotions to a poet. The poet has a personality, he has emotions, but poetry is not an expression of his personality or of his personal emotions as the Romantics believe. Rather, poetry is an escape from personality and personal emotions. It is through total absorption in his art that an artist can forget his personal self. The artist can achieve impersonality by surrendering himself entirely to the work to be done, and he will know what is to be done only if he has acquired a sense of tradition. In conclusion, or in summing up, we can say that the Eliot's classicism and his theory of impersonality of poetry find their full and complete expression in this essay. As most of his later criticism, both general and practical, is but an enlargement of these two concepts, we would be justified in calling this essay a manifesto of Eliot's critical creed. We may not agree with him in entirety. He may be vague and mystical at places, but there is no denying the peculiar charm and power of his essay. Thank you.